We move now to a very different scale and level of contribution, and coming to, I think, what's probably going to be my favorite part of the day, which is where we hear from some of those volunteers that the Cabinet Secretary mentioned who are working at the front line of community action through the CCF. This year we decided to focus the way we did our awards not on organisations, but on those kind of everyday heroes who are often unsung, who turn up and do remarkable things in their communities. We had 21 nominations for our Climate Hero Awards from across the country, and we just loved, as a team, reading through those applications, and we had no hesitation in affirming that every one of them was a hero, and all of them are receiving that accolade. We even had a bonus nomination from Sudan that somehow found its way to our office in Stirling. But we're really fortunate today to have 6 of those heroes with us to share a little bit about their story. And we've invited them, not necessarily because they're more amazing than the others, although when you hear them, they are pretty amazing, but A, because we knew they were able to come, and we really appreciate them giving up a day of their time to come, but B, because the people we've selected give just a sense of the diversity and the rich range of people who are involved in our projects. So I'm going to hand over to Elizabeth now, who's going to introduce you to our first 3 heroes, and then I'll have the privilege of speaking to our other 3. So if I can invite Elizabeth to come up with Gerard, Tony, and Taylor, and take a seat here, please. Yeah, give them a round of applause.
Is that working? Oh, I have to do something. It's not. We could use 2. Okay. Right. Okay. Right. I have with me here Jared Tattersfield, who is an e-bike expert. You'll all want to talk to him later. Sustainable Island Life project with Aaron EcoSavvy. And then I have Tony Person, that she does event support with Communities for Conservation with Edinburgh and Lothian's Regional Equality Council, and Taylor Flynn, who is a reuse activities volunteer at Gate Church Carbon Saving Project with Gate Church International. We have just a short time to get a flavor of what about their experiences, so I'm just going to ask a couple of questions to each of them. And Jared, I'll start with you, if that's all right. That we know you've helped to set up the e-bike scheme for the project and worked with employees at the Lochranza distillery. That's not a bad place to work. And you've managed to help staff save over 600 miles of car travel in just 1 month. How is that possible?
I don't know. I got involved with the project because I'm a cyclist, and my background, my whole life has been cycling, so I'm just enthusiastic about cycling, and I'm really enthusiastic about e-bikes. People look at me a bit strange when a cyclist gets enthusiastic about electric bikes, you know. But the more I get involved with them, the more I realise that it's the future, actually, you know. So, and being able to enthuse about something that everybody else can actually use is just brilliant, you know. And I don't see it as volunteering. I don't see it as working or even saving the carbon thing, you know. I just see it as enthusing people to ride bikes. That's kind of where I come from. So being able to do this with a nice shiny new fleet of electric bikes that Aaron EcoSavvy managed to get through the funding was fantastic, you know. So and I suppose enthusiasm really is the key. It's just and a bit of knowledge and experience in how to set it up and how to get somebody off. But as soon as they go up the first hill on an e-bike, people smile. And
yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that, having been on what we now call a normal bike and had someone pass me on a bike that they hadn't even bothered to change the gears, and they were off. And so I was a little bit jealous. But can you tell us a little bit more about the workshop and what you've learned in the process of being involved and in this kind of a project?
I think I personally have learned that although this whole project, the funding the bikes, are the first step, the biggest step is infrastructure. If we're going to succeed in stuff like getting more people cycling, whether it's on bikes or e-bikes, we need places for them to do it safely. It's as simple as that. So the more infrastructure we get, the less challenging it will be to succeed. Actually, it just will happen naturally. So it really brings it home to me. Does that?
So enthusiasm is important, but infrastructure's got to be there as well. And any advice you'd give to someone who might be out there, or for other projects encouraging volunteers, what advice would you give to them if they're thinking about volunteering and thinking might get involved? What would tip them over the edge?
I think being involved in something and being fairly passionate about it to start with. Aaron Eco Savvy, it's a bit like this hub thing that's coming up next year. Aaron Eco Savvy for me on the island is a bit of a hub already. And it's not just the e-bike project; it's all sorts of different projects. And it's a bit of an umbrella to bring people together. And I'm getting involved in things that I would never have got involved in because of that kind of umbrella now, and I think that's happening sort of island-wide, and there's a lot of enthusiasm actually, for that sort of thing. So.
Great. So lots of opportunities can spring from that one volunteering opportunity. So Tony, going over to switching to more the urban environment, you've helped organize big events such as the Edinburgh Climate Festival. And you've gone on to volunteer with several organizations, not just with one. So what's motivated you to volunteer with these groups?
Well, I think it's very hard not to be affected of the news of the climate crisis and not feel like you should do something. And I think I was in a position where I'd recently been let go from a job. And I also realized that I couldn't really imagine doing anything that wasn't to help the environment. And that's what got me to starting with the volunteering, basically. And it's been very rewarding. And I should probably try and get something that will actually pay me eventually, but I'm enjoying it a lot.
So you mentioned rewarding, that it's been rewarding for you. Can you share an example, an experience that you've had that might inspire others?
Well, one of the best proof that something we'd done and made a difference was we did this big swap event a couple of weeks ago down in Leith, where people could donate clothes and then people could come and take clothes. It was a bit like the swap shop we heard about earlier. And basically, we had over 500 people come and just everyone was so happy and excited over the fact that they got to either get rid of stuff or get new stuff. It was the same feeling from everyone, and I felt like I was making an actual difference there.
No, that's great to see it so tangible, I guess, with so many people. And I know it's probably not always easy, and some events are successful, and sometimes it's hard to get things off the ground. Is there an example of something that's been quite tough to do, and you've found a way to overcome the difficulties?
I don't know about events especially, but I think I'm probably not the only one in this room who has suffered a bit from the climate anxiety. And that can be hard just to motivate yourself sometimes to get up and do something. But I think it's always better to get out and do it rather than sit at home and be scared and feel sorry for yourself.
I think that's a very honest reflection of what many of us will feel sometimes, that that it's quite hard and quite frightening. But being in a room of such optimistic people like today and hearing that talk this morning from Rob Hopkins certainly give us a lot of hope. So you mentioned that you're thinking maybe you'd get a paid job sometime. Are there some skills that you think you've picked up along the way, and there are other directions that you might be able to apply those now?
Well, I feel more passionate now than I ever did in any of my previous jobs. I think it's just because I finally found something that I really, really care about, and I think that will show to anyone. And I also think that I've learned a lot about just communicating with people of all different types, from all different kinds of backgrounds, just because volunteering, you meet anyone and everyone, and it's great.
And even doing interviews and presentations on stage before a big audience. Excellent, thanks. And now, Taylor, you've helped organize monthly clothes swap events, and maybe you could tell a little bit, there are other people here who've done some swap shops. You could give us an idea, what's a typical day for a volunteer doing a clothes swap?
Yeah. We have kind of different... we have like a few different people doing it. So I like to stand at the entrance. Everyone comes in. If they donate stuff, they don't have to. If they do, I'll take it off them and tell them we weigh it so we know how much carbon we've saved. And then I'll pass it on to, we've got some school kids that help us out. They'll sort through everything and then put it out for everyone to take. And then even before the actual event, we sort through everything on a Wednesday. So they come to that as well. So different things like that. And just keeping the place tidy. It's very, it's very hard.
Yes, we were hearing one of the workshops about how, making it look nice. One of them calls theirs a boutique, and, makes it seem it's an ordinary shop, just like others, to come in and do your swaps. You have other talents in helping to build a website, design and build a website, which makes you a very valuable volunteer indeed, I'm sure. And are these skills that you already had? Did you learn on the job? How did you pull that off?
It was a bit of both. I'd done some website stuff at university, but the main website that we have now, the bare bones were there already. So I just built upon it and changed themes and added photographs and things like that. But I had to learn how to use WordPress, and it's more complicated than it might seem. But when you finally crack it, it's rewarding.
Well, she might have your skills called upon by others. I know WordPress has its challenges. And so what's next for you? Do you plan to use your skills in other ways, other endeavors, continue with this project?
I'd be with Tony, and we want a paid job, because I think, I've also enjoyed this more than anything else I've done. And it doesn't feel like work, like you were saying as well. It just feels like something, you're so passionate about it. So just continuing to do it and reach more people in the community, trying to affect behavioural change like what we were hearing about earlier, encourage more people to swap and just reuse things we already have rather than buy new things. So,
Well, you certainly are persuasive, and I think you've said it all with the fact it's the most rewarding thing you've ever done. I think all three of you have shared that. So I'm sorry our time's so short. But I hope others get a chance to chat with you after the event today. And if I can ask you to take your seats, and Alistair will come up with our other three heroes.
Thank you.
We'll have an...
Thank you. And Supta, where are you? You're here. Come on up. So I'd like to introduce you to Omar and to Kathleen and to Supta, and we're going to hear a little bit about their stories too. So, Omar, you arrived in Scotland fairly recently as an asylum seeker. Tell us what it was like to arrive in Scotland in a brand new place and find your feet. What was that like?
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, just keep it up to your mic.
Okay. The first time when I came here, I couldn't speak English. It was my problem with other people to contact them. It's okay. And for me, it was the Glaswegian accent. It's a big problem. And I start speaking English now, as you see. Then I heard about Repair Cafe from the area where I live, Govan, and this is in the neighborhood of Kenning Park. And then I start to volunteer with them.
So what I didn't tell you was that Omar came to Scotland in June 2018. So figure out that journey of learning a language and being here today. What a remarkable story. I think a good round of applause. So we understand that you're very good at fixing things and you play a big role in the repair cafe there in your project. So tell us, how did you learn these skills? How did you come to be such a good fixer?
In my home country, we didn't throw anything. If it's broken, we have to fix it again because we don't have money to buy a new one. That's why I start to open the broken items and see what inside it. And then I start to teach myself how to fix it.
Amazing. And tell us some of the kind of things that you've fixed for people in your project. What sort of stuff?
We fix everything. We fix everything.
Can you work for me?
Start from headphones until the sewing machine and microwaves, almost everything.
Fantastic. Just a reminder, actually, that much of what we assume is not possible actually is possible. Amazing. So you've clearly helped a lot of people in Glasgow since you arrived. How has being a volunteer helped you as you start this new life in Glasgow?
First, improving my English, as you see, and improve my skills to try to fix the items.
Fantastic. Well, we're so glad that you're able to be here today to share some of that inspiring story with us. Thank you. And if you've got something needing fixed, he'll be at the back taking commissions.
Yes.
Kathleen, you do something very different. You run a blog about your own journey towards the low-carbon living, and you share some of that learning with others. So tell us how that came about and why you decided to start blogging and communicating in that way.
Well, I'm an accidental blogger. It came out of the Carbon Conversations, which is funded by CCF, that was running in our town. And once the workshops were finished, I felt a little bit bereft because they had been so supportive in helping me in my journey. And it was, in fact, the facilitator that suggested I try blogging. Now, I had never really gone near a computer even before this suggestion, but I found the blog was good for me because it gave me time to reflect on my changes. It was a record of my personal journey, but it was also going out into the community, and I was finding people were reading them and actually giving me feedback and chatting to me in the town about what I was blogging.
So can you give us some examples of the kinds of things you're writing about and sharing online through your blog?
Sure. So I blog really about, I've got two types of blogs, I suppose. The first is the personal. So it's things that I'm doing and my household are doing. So, for example, recently I signed not to fly for a year. And I'm also trying to reduce plastics in our household. The other kind of blogging I do is I go out into the community and just our local community. So, for example, recently I blogged about the excellent community fridge that's been set up in Dundee. And I've also blogged about take part in the Friday protests that's been happening throughout Scotland, and I just reported on our local, I suppose, protest.
Thank you. I can imagine it's quite easy to share online when you feel you've done something and it's worked well, and you can show to people in your community that it's working well. It's not always easy, is it? I mean, some of the things we try don't work, or we find we can't keep them going. How How do you handle that situation when you've maybe tried something or you wanted to see something that's not worked? How easy is it to be honest about the tough stuff as well?
Well, I think it's absolutely essential to be honest. And again, I've got sort of two levels, I suppose, of honesty. The first is like practical honesty. So like recently I tried to insulate my garage door, and then I discovered I couldn't close it or lock it. So that didn't work very well. But maybe, and I think these are, for me, that's easy to admit that, you know, sometimes things just don't work. But for me, there's the biggest challenge, I think, is what I call the emotional honesty that goes with trying to change behavior. And one of the things I personally struggled with, and it'll be different for everybody, is actually leaving my car behind and trying to move towards public transport. And I found I had to dig really quite deep psychologically to work out when it was a perfectly rational thing, and we have a very good bus service in my community, why I was so reluctant to give up my car. So yeah, it's not always easy.
And I guess you're putting yourself up to be knocked down maybe sometimes when you go public like that. How has this been received in the community? What kind of reaction have you had from people to what you've been doing?
Well, nobody's crossed the street yet, I don't think, when they see me coming. But I see my blogs really as an invitation. They're not, you know, rants or because I did this, you have to do it. And it's only part, I think, as well, of a jigsaw, my blogs, because we've got, I think, a great community where I am in the Tayport, Taybridge area. And one thing, I did a blog recently about a zero waste shop that was opening. So because I'm in the community, people will actually come up to me and say, you know, I saw your blog and I'm going to definitely try out that shop because it looks really, really good. So I think it's about being local and in the community and referring to being honest again, yep.
Thank you. Just a great story of moving from a point where you were clearly nervous and unsure to just the confidence and enthusiasm with which you speak here this afternoon is wonderful. Thank you, Kathleen. And finally, Supta, who from your nomination form are involved in so many things. So we had to figure out what on earth are we going to pick from the list because you're involved in swap shops, gardening, recycling. But the thing that really struck me was your cycling story. So you went from not being able to ride a bike to doing the Glasgow to Edinburgh bike challenge in a period of 11 months, which I think is an amazing achievement. Well done. Why did you decide that you were going to try that huge challenge? What was the prompt?
Yeah, sure. Well, I belong to a place in India which is very hilly, and I never seen much cycling there, to be honest. But when I came here, it was kind of a more personal drive for me. I see my daughter, who is now 8, going out with the daddy, and like they're doing the outing, and I get left out because I didn't know how to cycle. Again, I go to work. I see my colleagues I'll be very honest, some of them are so toned, nice, fit and fine, and all because they cycle to work and everything. And plus things, company gives so many cycle to work scheme and other stuff. I say, hold on, there's so many ways we can do it. Why not just start it? And I'm out of my surprise. Fortunately, I have some good friends here. Samuel Madhvi is sitting down there who really encouraged me. Said, come with me. I'll teach you how to do cycling. And that's how I started. But when I started it, I realized, oh, that's just not like, being fit and fine. I like photography. And by cycling, I can go to the places where I can go by car or I can go by walking. So overall, it was it's one of the best things I did in my life, I feel like. So as I started going on more and more, and mainly because through NCAS and all, we have a group, we go out in a structured road. I realized there's so many cycle road, car-free road. So even if you're not sure where you're going, you can just follow the cycle route and go there. And then slowly, I started building myself up. And then I said, let's go for Pedal for Scotland. Honestly, I didn't know, they never mentioned it, the uphill and downhill. But I did it. I just saw 45 kilometers. I didn't consider the uphill bit. But I did it, and I'm very proud of it. And I did, just not that, I did quite a lot of cycling, like we jaunt and other with my daughter, and I feel like that's one of the achievement, my lifetime achievement. So thank you.
I can imagine it wasn't always easy. Did you have people who perhaps discouraged you or thought you were a bit strange, or what obstacles did you face on this journey? You made it sound so easy, right? But we know, because a lot of us try and do this full time, it's not easy. What challenges did you face, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I won't say that people discourage me, but definitely the Scottish weather. So, so there are days, like in the nighttime, I'm all set, geared up. That's me, 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm going out. And I wake up in the morning, it's raining, it's windy. So there are a few times I had to give up my plan because I couldn't dare to go out on the weather. So that is the challenge I had. But eventually I realized it's not the weather, it's your readiness for the weather. That's I need to consider. And that's how I started doing it. And that's me, never stopped after that.
And I think we need more role models like you. People who cycle all the time and have done since they were little aren't really any use in this field. We need people who've gone through that journey recently. So I'm guessing there may be people in this room who think, I would love to do that, but I'm feeling anxious and nervous. What one piece of advice might you give someone in this room who's a bit anxious about beginning that journey of cycling?
Sure. Well, for me, from my own experience, I will say, just take a bike, go in an open space, and try until you're both feet on the pedal, and that's it. Trust me, there is no age. I'm doing a lot of things in my 30s, which I never thought I could do. So just believe in yourself and go for it.
Thank you. We would love to stay here talking to these amazing people for longer, but we're going to keep moving through the program. So a big round of applause, please, to these guys. And if you can stay up. Yeah. If we can invite all our heroes up to the front, please, if you'd like to join us up here. We're just going to present them with their well-earned certificates and take a picture. So I think if you can come up onto the stage here. Elizabeth will present you with your certificates. I'll get out of the way. Yep, on you go, yeah.
Thank you very much.
So once again, a big hand for our heroes. Yeah, hold them up. And if you've got climate heroes who, well done, thank you. And we know that some of you will have nominated people who are also being awarded climate heroes but aren't here today. Please take back to them a sense of inspiration that their stories give to the rest of us, even though they weren't able to be here.